use reported speech, we are usually talking about a time in the past because obviously the person who spoke originally spoke in the past. The verbs, therefore, usually have to be in the past too. For example, direct speech. I'm going to the market, he said. Indirect speech. He said he was going to the market. Conjunction. Conjunctions are words that join or link sentences. Here are some examples of conjunctions. Sentence 1. He went to office. Sentence 2. He missed the train. The two sentences given are now linked by the conjunction because. He went late to office because he missed the train. Here is a list of commonly used conjunctions: and, either, or, for, but, if, yet, in case, after, neither, nor, though, although, even if, so, as, so that, because, whereas, till, until, whether, etc. There are two types of conjunctions. They are coordinating conjunctions, subordinating conjunctions. Coordinating conjunctions. Examples: and, but, nor, or, for, yet, so, etc. Subordinating conjunctions. Examples: although, because, since, unless, etc. Coordinating conjunctions. The short, simple conjunctions are called coordinating conjunctions: and, but, or, nor, for, yet, so. A coordinating conjunction joins parts of a sentence. For example, words or independent clauses that are grammatically equal or similar. A coordinating conjunction shows that the elements it joins are similar in importance and structure. Look at these examples. The two elements that the coordinating conjunction joins are shown in square brackets. I like tea and coffee. Ram likes tea, but Anthony likes coffee. Coordinating conjunctions always come between the words or clauses they join. When a coordinating conjunction joins independent clauses, it is always correct to place a comma before the conjunction. Example: I want to work as an interpreter in the future, so I am studying French at the university. However, if the independent clauses are short and well balanced, a comma is not really essential. For example, she is kind, so she helps people. When and is used with the last word of a list, a comma is optional. Example: he drinks beer, whiskey, wine, and rum. Subordinating conjunctions. The majority of conjunctions are subordinating conjunctions. Common subordinating conjunctions are after, although, as, because, before, how, if, once, since, than, that, though, till, until, when, where, whether, while. A subordinating conjunction joins a subordinate dependent clause to a main independent clause. Look at this example. Sam went swimming, although it was raining. A subordinating conjunction always comes at the beginning of a subordinate clause. It introduces a subordinate clause. However, a subordinate clause can sometimes come after and sometimes before a main clause. Thus, two structures are possible. Sam went swimming, although it was raining. Although it was raining, Sam went swimming. Forms. Conjunctions have three basic forms. Single word, for example, and, but, because, although. Examples. 1. He came and knocked at the door. 2. Although he studied well, he has not been able to come first. Compound, often ending with as or that. For example, provided that, as long as, in order that. Examples. 1. He is an actor as well as a director. 2. As far as I am concerned, money matters a lot. Correlative, surrounding an adverb or adjective. For example, so, that. Examples. He is a graduate, whereas his brother is a high school dropout. 2. I will come by the end of this month, so that we will meet then. Functions. Conjunctions have two basic functions. Coordinating conjunctions are used to join two parts of a sentence that are grammatically equal. The two parts may be single words or clauses. For example, Jack and Jill went up the hill. The water was warm, but I didn't go swimming. Subordinating conjunctions are used to join a subordinate dependent clause to a main clause. For example, I went swimming, although it was cold. Positions. Coordinating conjunctions always come between the words or clauses that they join. Subordinating conjunctions usually come at the beginning of the subordinate clause. Gerunds. Gerunds are sometimes called verbal nouns. When a verb ends in ing, it may be a gerund or a present participle. It is important to understand that they are not the same. When we use a verb in ing form, more like a noun, it is usually a gerund. Example, fishing is fun. When we use a verb in ing form, more like a verb or an adjective, it is usually a present participle. Example, Peter is fishing. I have a boring teacher. Gerunds are subject or complement. Try to think of gerunds as verbs in noun form. Like nouns, gerunds can be the subject, object, or complement of a sentence. Examples, smoking costs a lot of money. I don't like writing. My favorite occupation is reading. But, like a verb, a gerund can also have an object itself. In this case, the whole expression, gerund plus object, can be the subject, object, or complement of the sentence. Examples, smoking cigarettes costs a lot of money. I don't like writing letters. My favorite occupation is reading detective stories. Like nouns, we can use gerunds with adjectives, including articles and other determiners. Examples, pointless questioning, a settling of debts, the making of Titanic, his drinking of alcohol. But when we use a gerund with an article, it does not usually take a direct object. Examples, a settling of debts, not a settling debts. Making Titanic was expensive. The making of Titanic was expensive. Gerunds after prepositions. This is a good rule. It has no exceptions. If we want to use a verb after a preposition, it must be a gerund. It is impossible to use an infinitive after a preposition. So, for example, we say, I will call you after arriving at the office. Please have a drink before leaving. I am looking forward to meeting you. Do you object to working late? Tina always dreams about going on holiday. Notice that you could replace all the above gerunds with real nouns. I will call you after my arrival at the office. Please have a drink before your departure. I am looking forward to our lunch. Do you object to this job? Tara always dreams about holidays. Gerunds after certain verbs. We sometimes use one verb after another verb. Often the second verb is in the infinitive form. For example, I want to eat. But sometimes the second verb must be in gerund form. For example, I dislike eating. This depends on the first verb. Here is a list of verbs that are usually followed by a verb in gerund form. Admit, appreciate, avoid, carry on, consider, defer, delay, deny, detest, dislike, endure, enjoy, escape, excuse, face, feel like, finish, forgive, give up, can't help, imagine, involve, leave off, mention, mind, miss, postpone, practice, put off, report, resent, risk, can't stand, suggest, understand. Look at these examples. She is considering having a holiday. Do you feel like going out? I can't help falling in love with you. I can't stand not seeing you. Gerunds in passive sense. We often use a gerund after the verbs need, require, and want. In this case, the gerund has a passive sense. Examples: I have 3 shirts that need washing, needs to be washed. This contract requires signing, needs to be signed. The house wants repainting, needs to be repainted. Voice. There are 2 special forms for verbs called voice: active voice, passive voice. The passive voice is less usual than the active voice. The active voice is the normal voice, but sometimes we need the passive voice. In this lesson, we look at how to construct the passive voice, when to use it, and how to conjugate it. Construction of the passive voice. Subject plus auxiliary verb be plus main verb, past participle. The main verb is always in its past participle form. Look at these examples. Water is drunk by everyone. 100 people are employed by this company. I am paid in euro. We are not paid in dollars. Use of the passive voice. We use the passive voice when we want to make the active object more important. Example: Mahatma Gandhi was killed by Nathuram. We use the passive when we do not know the active subject. Example: My wallet has been stolen. Note that we always use by to introduce the passive object. Fish are eaten by cats. Conjugation of voice. We can form the passive in any tense. In fact, conjugation of verbs in the passive tense is rather easy, as the main verb is always in past participle form and the auxiliary verb is always be. To form the required tense, we conjugate the auxiliary verb. So, for example, present simple, it is made. Present continuous, it is being made. Present perfect, it has been made. Punctuations. Punctuation means making points. It means putting the right kind of points in the right place so as to mark the exact length and meaning of sentences. Proper punctuation is essential in writing to enable the reader to understand what it is you are trying to say. Full stop. Full stops go at the end of sentences that are statements. You do not put a space before a full stop, but you do need at least one space after one. Two spaces for purists. For example, her name is Nancy. She is a teacher. Question mark. Question marks go at the end of sentences that are questions. As with full stops, you do not put a space before a question mark, but you do need at least one space after one. Two spaces for purists. For example, is her name Nancy? Of course it is. Exclamation marks. Exclamation marks act as a full stop. It is most often used to show shock, surprise, horror, or pleasure. As with full stops, you do not put a space before an exclamation mark, but you do need at least one space after one. Two spaces for purists. For example, oh, ah, wow, brilliant, etc. Commas. Commas point out brief pauses in a complex sentence or separate items in long lists. They are useful for breaking up long sentences, but only to show a natural break. You do not put a space before a comma, but you do need a space after one. For example, there were a lot of people in the room, teachers, students, and parents. The teachers were sitting, the students were listening, and the parents were just worrying. Note, we don't usually put a comma before the word and. Colons. Colons precede a list, an explanation or an example. You do not put a space before a colon, but you do need a space after one. Example, there are two main shopping areas in New Delhi, Connaught Place and Lajpat Nagar. Semicolons. Semicolons are used to separate two sentences that would otherwise be joined with a word such as and, because, since, unless, or while. You do not put a space before a semicolon, but you do need a space after one. For example, I am looking forward to our next lesson. I'm sure it will be a lot of fun. Speech marks. Speech marks are used to show words that are directly spoken. Only the words that quote a person are enclosed by speech marks. You need a space before the opening speech mark and a space after the closing one, but no space before the closing one. For example, could everyone sit down, please? Said the teacher. Apostrophes. Apostrophes next to the letter S indicate belonging. No space is needed before or after the apostrophe. For example, Monica's car. Capitalization. Capital letters are used for two main purposes in English: to show the beginning of a sentence, to show that a noun is a proper noun. The first letter of every new sentence is capitalized. For example, the postman delivered the parcel. It was very heavy. The pronoun I is always capitalized. For example, my name is Peter. I am a teacher. Proper nouns, also called proper names, are the words which name specific people, organizations, or places. They always start with a capital letter. Sentence. A sentence is a group of words which starts with a capital letter and ends with a full stop, question mark, or exclamation mark. A sentence contains or implies a predicate and a subject. Complete sentence. If it helps you, think about a sentence as if it were a skeleton. The skeleton contains various bones, and these bones are put together to form different parts of the body. So are sentences formed by words. The words are the bones, and they are put together in different ways to form sentences. Simple sentence. A simple sentence contains a single subject and predicate. It describes only one thing, idea or question, and has only one verb. It contains only an independent main clause. For example, Jenny reads. The black dog with the white collar always barks loudly. The dog barked and growled loudly. Compound sentence. Compound sentences are made up of two or more simple sentences combined using a conjunction such as and, or but. They are made up of more than one independent clause, joined together with a coordinating conjunction. For example, sentence 1. The sun was setting in the west. Sentence 2. The moon was just rising. Compound sentence. The sun was setting in the west and the moon was just rising. Complex sentences. Complex sentences describe more than one thing or idea and have more than one verb in them. They are made up of more than one clause, an independent clause that can stand by itself, and a dependent, subordinate clause which cannot stand by itself. For example, my mother likes dogs that don't bark. I went to the show that was very popular. Before they go to the airport, they will visit you. Conclusion. English is an accommodating language. Some dictionaries have recorded considerably more than 500,000 English words. Some authorities believe that there will be more than 1 million English words when the recently developed technical